Imagine eating less, not because you want to lose weight, but because it might actually slow down how fast your body ages. Sounds too good to be true, right? But science has been studying this for almost 90 years, and the results keep pointing to the same conclusion. When you give your body a break from constant eating, something remarkable happens inside your cells. Today, we're going to explore exactly what happens to the aging process when you practice intermittent fasting. Not the hype, not the trends, just the science. Before we continue, a quick note. This is educational content, not medical advice. If you have any health conditions, please talk to your doctor before making changes to how you eat. Now let's start with a story that changed everything we know about aging. In 1935 at Cornell University, a scientist named Clive Mackay conducted a simple experiment that would reshape our understanding of longevity. He took a group of rats and fed them fewer calories than normal, but made sure they still got all the nutrients they needed. The results shocked the scientific community. The rats that ate less lived 33% longer than the rats that ate freely. Not just longer, but healthier too. They had fewer diseases. Their bodies aged more slowly. They stayed active well into old age. This was revolutionary. For the first time, science proved that lifespan wasn't fixed. We could actually influence how fast we age, and the method was surprisingly simple. Now you might think that was almost 90 years ago, and those were just rats. What about humans? Fast forward to 2023. Researchers at Columbia University published results from a landmark study called CALERIE. This was the first controlled trial of calorie restriction in healthy humans. 220 people participated for 2 years. The group that reduced their calories showed something remarkable. Their biological aging slowed down by 2 to 3%. That might not sound like much, but here's what it means in real terms. A 2 to 3% slowdown translates to roughly 10 to 15% lower risk of dying. That's similar to the benefit from quitting smoking. The connection between eating less and aging slower isn't just an idea anymore. It's been proven in mice, in monkeys, and now in humans. But here's the interesting part. You don't have to restrict calories every single day. That's where intermittent fasting comes in. So what actually happens inside your body when you fast? Let's break it down step by step. In the first few hours after your last meal, your body is still running on the food you just ate. Glucose from that meal floats through your bloodstream, providing energy to your cells. During this time, a hormone called insulin stays elevated. Insulin's job is to help cells absorb glucose. When insulin is high, your body is in what scientists call fed state. In this state, your cells are focused on one thing, using the incoming nutrients to grow and build. This is completely normal. Your body needs to do this. But here's the problem. If you're eating constantly throughout the day, breakfast snacks, lunch, more snacks, dinner, maybe something before bed, your body stays in fed state almost all the time. And when your cells are always building, they rarely get the chance to do something equally important: repair. Around 8 to 12 hours after your last meal, things start to change. Your body has used up most of the glucose from your food. Now it turns to glycogen, which is stored glucose kept in your liver. Think of glycogen as your body's backup battery. It's there for situations when food isn't immediately available. As glycogen gets used up, insulin levels drop. This is a crucial shift. Low insulin is a signal to your body that nutrients are becoming scarce. And this signal triggers a cascade of changes at the cellular level. First, your body starts burning fat for energy. Without incoming glucose, your liver begins converting fatty acids into molecules called ketones. Ketones are an alternative fuel source that your brain and muscles can use very effectively. But fat burning isn't the most important thing happening here. Something far more significant is taking place in your cells. As insulin drops, a protein called AMPK becomes active. AMPK stands for AMP-activated protein kinase. What you need to know is this. AMPK is your cell's energy sensor. When energy is abundant, AMPK stays quiet. But when energy becomes scarce, like during fasting, AMPK wakes up. And once active, it starts a series of protective processes. AMPK tells your cells to stop building new things and start conserving resources. It activates fat burning. It triggers the creation of new mitochondria, the tiny structures inside your cells that produce energy. And most importantly, for aging, AMPK activates a process called autophagy. We'll explore autophagy in detail in a moment because it's one of the most powerful anti-aging mechanisms your body has. Between 12 and 24 hours of fasting, another major shift occurs. A protein called mTOR begins to quiet down. mTOR is essentially the opposite of AMPK. When you eat especially protein and carbohydrates, mTOR gets activated. Its job is to tell your cells to grow and multiply. This is important during childhood and after exercise when your muscles need to repair. But constant mTOR activity has a dark side. Research has linked overactive mTOR to accelerated aging and increased risk of certain diseases, including some cancers. When you fast, mTOR activity decreases. Your cells stop focusing on growth and start focusing on maintenance and repair instead. This shift from growth mode to repair mode is one of the core reasons fasting affects aging. Think about it this way. Your cells can't do both things at the same time. They can either build new structures or clean up existing damage. When you're constantly eating, they're always building. When you fast, they finally get the chance to clean. Now let's talk about what many scientists consider the most exciting part of fasting autophagy. Autophagy comes from Greek words meaning self-eating. That sounds alarming, but it's actually one of the most beneficial things your body can do. Here's how it works. Inside every cell, things accumulate over time. Proteins become damaged and stop working properly. Mitochondria malfunction and produce harmful waste products instead of clean energy. Cellular debris builds up in corners that rarely get attention. When you're young and healthy, your body handles this fairly well. But as you age, these damaged components accumulate faster than your body can clear them. This buildup is one of the fundamental causes of aging. Autophagy is your body's cleanup system. During autophagy, cells identify damaged parts, break them down into raw materials, and use those materials to build new functional components. It's recycling at the cellular level. You clear out what doesn't work and use the pieces to build something better. Autophagy ramps up significantly during fasting, typically becoming most active after 24 to 48 hours without food. But even shorter fasting periods trigger some level of this cleaning process. Research has linked impaired autophagy to many age-related diseases, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's heart disease, and certain cancers. The damaged proteins and dysfunctional mitochondria that autophagy clears away are the same things that accumulate in these conditions. By activating autophagy through fasting, you're essentially helping your body take out the cellular garbage that contributes to aging and disease. There's another group of proteins activated by fasting that deserves attention. They're called sirtuins. Sirtuins are a family of 7 proteins, often referred to as longevity genes. They got this nickname because in numerous studies, increasing sirtuin activity has extended lifespan in various organisms from yeast to mice. What do sirtuins do? Several important things. They help repair DNA damage. They regulate metabolism. They control inflammation. They protect cells from stress. Sirtuins need a molecule called D+ to function. Here's what's interesting. NAD+ levels increase during fasting. When you haven't eaten for a while, your cells produce more NAD+, which activates sirtuins more strongly. So when you fast, you're not just burning fat. You're activating an entire network of protective systems. AMPK senses low energy and triggers conservation and repair. mTOR quiets down shifting cells from growth to maintenance. Autophagy kicks in, clearing damaged components. Sirtuins activate protecting DNA and regulating metabolism. These systems work together, reinforcing each other. And they didn't evolve randomly. These systems exist because our ancestors lived in a world of feast and famine. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans didn't have constant access to food. There were no refrigerators, no grocery stores, no restaurants open at midnight. Our ancestors ate when food was available and went without when it wasn't. Those who survived weren't the ones who became weak during famine. They were the ones whose bodies became more efficient, more alert, more capable of finding food. Evolution hardwired survival mechanisms into our DNA. These mechanisms activate during scarcity to protect us and enhance our chances of survival. The problem is modern life has almost completely eliminated scarcity. We eat breakfast, snack mid-morning, have lunch, snack in the afternoon, eat dinner, and maybe have something before bed. Our bodies stay in fed mode almost constantly. These ancient protective systems that took millions of years to develop sit dormant because the signal that activates them, the absence of food, rarely comes. Intermittent fasting is essentially a way to send that signal. It tells your body nutrients are temporarily scarce, and your body responds the way evolution designed it to by activating protection, repair, and survival mechanisms. Now let's address one of the biggest concerns people have about fasting muscle loss. Many people worry that if they don't eat, their body will start breaking down muscle for energy. This fear keeps a lot of people from trying fasting at all. But the science tells a different story. During short to moderate fasts, your body actually protects muscle. It does this by increasing production of human growth hormone, often abbreviated as HGH. Studies have shown that HGH levels can increase significantly during fasting, sometimes by several 100%. Growth hormone helps preserve lean muscle mass and promotes fat burning instead. This makes evolutionary sense. If you're an ancient human who hasn't eaten for a day or two, you need your muscles to hunt or gather food. Your body wouldn't sabotage you by breaking down the very tools you need to survive. Your body preferentially burns fat during fasting because fat is the expendable energy reserve. That's exactly what it's there for. Muscle is functional tissue. Your body protects it. For intermittent fasting, whether it's 16 hours, 20 hours, or even 24 hours, muscle loss is generally not a significant concern, especially if you're eating adequate protein during your eating windows and staying physically active. Let's also talk about what happens in your brain during fasting. Many people report feeling sharper, more focused, and more mentally clear during fasting. There are several reasons for this. First, ketones. The molecules your liver produces from fat during fasting are actually excellent fuel for the brain. Some research suggests the brain runs more efficiently on ketones than on glucose. Second, fasting increases production of BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF supports the growth of new neurons and strengthens existing neural connections. This makes evolutionary sense. Our ancestors needed their sharpest mental faculties when food was scarce. That's when they had to track animals, remember where resources were, and plan strategically. Evolution ensured the brain becomes sharper, not foggier, during fasting. A major study at the National Institutes of Health revealed something fascinating. Researchers examined over 10,000 mice on different diets. They varied the types of food, the ratios of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But the most dramatic finding wasn't about what the mice ate. It was about when they ate. Mice that consumed their food in a restricted time window lived significantly longer than mice that grazed throughout the day, even when both groups consumed similar total calories. The timing of eating may matter as much as, or even more than, the composition of what you eat. This is encouraging because it means you don't necessarily need to eat less overall. You just need to eat within a more condensed window and give your body longer periods without food. Scientists now measure something called biological age, which can be different from chronological age. Your chronological age is simply how many years you've been alive. But biological age reflects how old your cells actually are, how much wear and tear they've accumulated. Researchers can estimate biological age by looking at chemical markers on DNA called DNA methylation. These markers change predictably with age, like a molecular clock. The CALERIE study used these measurements to show that calorie restriction actually slowed this molecular clock. People who ate less didn't just feel younger. Their DNA showed markers of younger cells. Intermittent fasting appears to work through similar mechanisms. By periodically triggering reduced insulin, activated AMPK quieted, mTOR, enhanced autophagy, and activated sirtuins, you may be slowing your biological clock. An important note about who should be careful with fasting. Pregnant or breastfeeding women should not fast because they need consistent nutrition. People with a history of eating disorders should approach fasting cautiously. Those with type 1 diabetes or who take insulin need medical guidance. People who are underweight, children and teenagers who are still growing, and those with certain chronic conditions should consult healthcare providers first. If you experience severe dizziness, heart palpitations, confusion, or fainting, stop fasting and consult a doctor. These symptoms suggest your body isn't adapting well. For most healthy adults, intermittent fasting is safe. But wisdom lies in starting slowly, listening to your body, and making adjustments as needed. So where does this leave us? The science is clear that eating patterns affect how we age at the cellular level. When you fast, you activate ancient survival systems that protect and repair your cells. You shift from constant growth mode to periodic maintenance mode. You clear out damaged cellular components. You boost proteins that protect DNA and regulate metabolism. These aren't exotic interventions requiring expensive supplements. They're biological responses your body already knows how to perform. Fasting simply provides the signal to trigger them. For 200,000 years, humans experienced regular periods without food. Our bodies evolved expecting these cycles. Modern life has disrupted this pattern. Intermittent fasting is simply a way to restore it. The research from Clive Mackay in 1935, through decades of animal studies, to the recent CALERIE trial in humans, points in the same direction. Periodic breaks from eating trigger beneficial changes that may slow the aging process. This represents something powerful, the knowledge that aging isn't entirely out of our control. Simple choices about when we eat can influence how our cells age. Every time you extend your overnight fast, every time you give your body a break from constant eating, you're sending a signal to your cells, a signal that triggers protection, repair, and survival mechanisms that evolution spent millions of years perfecting. You're not just not eating, you're actively participating in your own cellular renewal. If you're curious about intermittent fasting, consider starting small. Extend your overnight fast to 12 hours, then 14, then 16. See how your body responds. Give it a few weeks to adapt. What matters is the overall pattern, giving your body regular opportunities to shift from building to repairing. After 90 years of research, from rats in 1935 to humans in 2023, the message remains consistent. How you eat affects how you age. And intermittent fasting is one practical way for most people to influence this relationship. This doesn't mean fasting is a fountain of youth. Aging is complex, influenced by genetics, environment, stress, sleep, exercise, and many other factors. But the evidence is strong that how and when you eat plays a meaningful role. The beauty of intermittent fasting is its simplicity. You don't need special foods, expensive supplements, or complicated protocols. You just need to give your body consistent breaks from eating. Those breaks activate systems. Your body already has systems designed by millions of years of evolution to protect and repair your cells during times of scarcity. In a world where we're constantly told to consume more, there's something powerful about discovering that sometimes less really is more. Have you tried intermittent fasting? What has your experience been? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this video helped you understand the science behind fasting and aging, share it with someone who might benefit. Subscribe to learn more about how your body works and what you can do to optimize your health. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have you ever wondered why some days you wake up full of energy, ready to take on the world, while other days you feel drained from morning to night? You eat the same foods, you sleep the same hours, yet your energy levels seem completely unpredictable. The answer lies deep inside every single cell of your body. There are tiny structures there, invisible to the naked eye, that determine whether you feel vibrant or exhausted. They're called mitochondria. And what most people don't realize is that when you fast, you're not just burning fat. You're actually building more of these tiny energy factories. This process is called mitochondrial biogenesis. It's a scientific term that simply means the creation of new mitochondria. And the science behind it might change how you think about every meal you skip. Before we dive in, this is educational content, not medical advice. If you have any health conditions, please consult your doctor before trying any fasting protocol. So let's start with the basics. What exactly are mitochondria and why should you care about them? Inside almost every cell of your body, there are small structures responsible for producing more than 90% of the energy your body needs to function. From thinking to running, from breathing to digesting food, all of it requires energy. And that energy comes from mitochondria. Here's a number that might surprise you. A single liver cell can contain more than 2,000 mitochondria. Heart muscle cells have even more because the heart never stops working and needs constant energy. Your brain, which makes up only about 2% of your body weight, consumes roughly 20% of your total energy, all powered by mitochondria. Athletes tend to have more mitochondria in their muscle cells than sedentary people. This is one reason they can sustain intense physical activity for longer periods. The number and quality of your mitochondria directly influence how much energy you have available throughout the day. Now, how do these tiny structures actually produce energy? The process works like this. Mitochondria take glucose and fatty acids from the food you eat, combine them with oxygen, and through a series of chemical reactions, produce a molecule called ATP. ATP is the energy currency of your cells. Every movement, every thought, every heartbeat uses ATP. Here's what makes mitochondria so important. Without them, each molecule of glucose would only produce about 2 ATP. But with mitochondria, that same glucose molecule produces around 32 ATP. That's 15 times more energy. Without mitochondria, we wouldn't have enough energy to maintain complex brain function or sustain muscle movement. We simply couldn't exist as we are. And here's something fascinating about where mitochondria come from. About 2 billion years ago, our ancient cellular ancestors engulfed bacteria that were very efficient at producing energy. Instead of digesting these bacteria, the cells formed a partnership with them. Over billions of years of evolution, those bacteria became what we now call mitochondria. The evidence for this is remarkable. Mitochondria have their own DNA separate from the DNA in your cell's nucleus. This mitochondrial DNA is inherited only from your mother, and mitochondria replicate by dividing just like bacteria do. This ancient origin explains why mitochondria respond to fasting the way they do. It's a survival mechanism that has been preserved across billions of years of evolution. So why does the number and quality of your mitochondria matter so much? People with more healthy mitochondria tend to have more abundant energy and better endurance. They recover faster from physical activity. Their cells function more efficiently. On the other hand, when damaged mitochondria accumulate in your cells, several problems arise. They produce less energy. They generate more waste products called reactive oxygen species or free radicals. These free radicals can damage other parts of your cells and contribute to aging and disease. Research has shown that mitochondrial decline is associated with aging, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. The connection is clear. Healthy mitochondria mean a healthier you. The good news is that your body has the ability to build new mitochondria, and fasting is one of the most powerful ways to activate this process. So how exactly does fasting unlock this hidden cellular power? It all begins with a brilliant biological strategy. When food becomes scarce, your body shifts from growth mode into repair and optimization mode. This calorie restriction activates critical molecular pathways that essentially flip the biogenesis switch inside your cells. Let's trace this journey step by step from the initial hunger signal all the way to the creation of new mitochondria. In the first 0 to 12 hours of fasting, as you stop eating, glucose levels in your blood begin to drop. Your cells sense this energy shortage through a protein called AMPK, which stands for AMP activated protein kinase. Think of AMPK as your cell's fuel gauge. When fuel runs low, AMPK sounds the alarm. It's an ancient cellular sensor that has been conserved across evolution. It exists in yeast in worms and in humans. The fact that this same molecule exists in such different organisms tells us something important. This is a fundamental survival mechanism that life has preserved for hundreds of millions of years. When AMPK is activated, it initiates a cascade of responses. It shuts down energy-consuming processes that aren't immediately necessary, like cell growth and fat storage. It ramps up processes that generate energy and repair cellular damage. It signals the cell to start using stored fat as fuel. This is the first domino in the chain that leads to mitochondrial biogenesis. Between 12 and 24 hours of fasting, AMPK activates a crucial partner called SIRT1, also known as sirtuin 1. Sirtuin is an enzyme belonging to a family often called longevity genes. Research has shown that sirtuins are connected to lifespan extension in multiple species. Why are they called longevity genes? Studies on various organisms from yeast to mice have shown that increased sirtuin activity is associated with longer lifespan. Calorie restriction, which has been shown to extend life in many species, works partly through activating these sirtuins. SIRT1 requires a molecule called NAD+ to function. NAD+ is a coenzyme found in all living cells, and it plays a critical role in energy metabolism. During fasting, NAD+ levels in your cells increase. This rise in NAD+ wakes up SIRT1 and allows it to begin its work. SIRT1 then adjusts various factors that help your cells shift into repair and optimization mode. The partnership between AMPK and SIRT1 is beautifully coordinated. AMPK senses the energy shortage and begins the response. SIRT1 amplifies and extends that response. Together, they prepare the cell for what comes next. Now comes the critical step. When AMPK and SIRT1 work together, they activate something called PGC1 alpha. This is where the real magic happens. In 1998, a researcher named Bruce Spiegelman at Harvard was studying brown fat tissue, the type of fat that generates heat to keep you warm. During his research, he discovered a molecule that seemed to control whether cells produced more mitochondria or not. He named it PGC1 alpha. Spiegelman later said in an interview, "When we discovered PGC1 alpha, people weren't even looking for something like that." But there must be many more dynamic molecules that can switch cell biology that have yet to be discovered. Today, PGC1 alpha is recognized as the master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis. It's found in tissues with high energy demands, particularly in muscle, heart, brain, and brown fat tissue. When AMPK and SIRT1 unlock PGC1 alpha, it sends a clear signal to your cells. Start building more mitochondria. What makes PGC1 alpha so powerful is that it doesn't just do one thing. It coordinates an entire program of cellular changes. It increases the expression of genes needed for mitochondrial proteins. It enhances the capacity for oxidative metabolism. It improves the cell's ability to handle oxidative stress. It's like a conductor directing an entire orchestra of cellular processes. This isn't just about flipping a switch. There's an entire complex network at work. The intricate choreography of enzymes and proteins is what truly enhances your cellular power, going far beyond simply using existing energy. Let's follow the journey from that initial signal to the actual creation of new mitochondria. When PGC1 alpha is activated, it doesn't directly build mitochondria itself. Instead, it awakens transcription factors proteins that control which genes get turned on or off. The key players here are RF1 and NRF2, which stand for nuclear respiratory factors. Think of these as the architects directing the assembly of new mitochondrial components. There's also TFAM, which stands for transcription factor A, mitochondrial. This factor is especially important because it controls the replication of mitochondrial DNA. Here's how the process unfolds. PGC1 alpha activates RF1 and NRF2. These factors then activate genes in the cell nucleus that code for mitochondrial proteins. At the same time, TFAM is produced and enters existing mitochondria to replicate mitochondrial DNA. The result is that proteins from both the nucleus and the mitochondria are created and assembled into new mitochondria. Between 24 and 48 hours of fasting, this construction process reaches its peak. New mitochondria don't appear instantly. It takes time. Mitochondrial DNA is duplicated. New proteins are synthesized. New mitochondrial membranes are formed. The electron transport chain where ATP is actually produced is assembled. During this window, existing mitochondria also get upgraded. They become more efficient at producing energy. But here's something important. It's not just about making more mitochondria. It's also about making better ones. Your body has a quality control system. Damaged or dysfunctional mitochondria are identified and removed through a process called mitophagy. This is essentially your cells digesting and recycling old broken down mitochondria. In 2023, researchers at UCLA made a surprising discovery. They found that fasting increases mitochondrial fission, which is the process of mitochondria splitting apart. This contradicted earlier studies done on cells grown in laboratory dishes. The researchers explained that in a living organism, cells interact with each other in ways that don't happen in isolated cell cultures. This increased splitting during fasting helps mitochondria adapt better to burning fat for fuel when food isn't available. The end result of all this: not just more mitochondria, but healthier, more efficient mitochondria. So what does all this mean for you in your daily life? Understanding the science is one thing, but what does this translate to in practical terms? Let's look at the real impacts. First, improved energy. When your mitochondrial density increases, your metabolic efficiency improves dramatically. Imagine having abundant energy throughout the day. What does this look like in real life? More stable energy throughout the day. Less of that afternoon slump where you feel like you need coffee just to function. Faster recovery after physical activity. Better ability to handle stress. Improved physical performance, whether that's in the gym playing sports or simply keeping up with your kids. Many people report that after a few weeks of practicing intermittent fasting, they no longer depend on caffeine to maintain their energy levels. The reason is straightforward. Healthier mitochondria produce ATP more efficiently and generate fewer harmful byproducts. Second, brain function. Your brain is the most energy-hungry organ in your body. It consumes about 20% of your total energy despite being only 2% of your body weight. Healthy mitochondria in brain cells mean improved cognitive function. Research has shown several benefits. Better ability to focus and concentrate. Improved memory. Reduction in brain fog, that feeling of mental cloudiness that makes it hard to think clearly. Additionally, fasting increases production of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This protein supports the growth of new nerve cells and the connections between them. Third, long-term benefits. Here's where the science becomes truly compelling. Mitochondrial decline is one of the hallmarks of aging. As we get older, our mitochondria tend to become less numerous and less efficient. They accumulate damage. They produce less ATP and more harmful byproducts. This mitochondrial decay contributes to the fatigue, weakness, and cognitive decline that often accompany aging. Maintaining healthy mitochondrial density can slow the aging process at the cellular level. Studies in animals have shown that activating PGC1 alpha extends lifespan. While human studies are ongoing, the evidence strongly suggests that mitochondrial health is a key factor in how well we age. Mitochondrial dysfunction is also connected to many chronic diseases: heart disease, type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Even certain cancers have all been linked to problems with mitochondrial function. By improving mitochondrial health through fasting, you may reduce your risk of developing these conditions. This makes fasting a truly comprehensive health strategy, not just a weight loss technique. Now, an important note. Fasting is not a cure-all. It's not a magic solution that fixes everything. It's a strategy that supports overall health. It doesn't replace medical treatment when you need it. So how can you apply this knowledge safely? Are you ready to harness this cellular potential? Let me share some practical information about how to integrate fasting into your routine in a way that aligns with the science we've discussed. There are different approaches to fasting that can stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. Intermittent fasting is the most accessible. The 16-8 method, where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window, is the most popular. This is enough to activate AMPK and start the signaling cascade. It's suitable for beginners and can be practiced daily. Longer fasts of 24 to 48 hours activate PGC1 alpha and the biogenesis process more powerfully. These should be done less frequently, perhaps once or twice a month, and require proper preparation and understanding. Here's the key point. You don't need extended fasts to get benefits. Even daily intermittent fasting activates these pathways to a meaningful degree. However, fasting isn't appropriate for everyone. You should not fast or should only do so under medical supervision if you are pregnant, or breastfeeding if you have a history of eating disorders, if you have type 1 diabetes, or are taking insulin, if you are underweight with a BMI below 18.5, or if you have chronic kidney disease. Watch for these warning signs that mean you should stop fasting immediately. Severe dizziness that doesn't go away after drinking water and electrolytes. Rapid heartbeat or unusual heart palpitations. Confusion or severe difficulty concentrating. Fainting or feeling like you're about to faint. If any of these symptoms persist for more than 30 minutes despite proper hydration, stop fasting and consult a healthcare professional. To optimize the benefits of fasting, stay properly hydrated and maintain electrolyte balance with adequate salt, potassium, and magnesium. Consider combining fasting with light exercise, as physical activity also activates PGC1 alpha. Make sure you're getting proper nutrition during your eating windows. Get enough sleep, as sleep quality also affects mitochondrial health. If you're new to fasting, start gradually. Begin with 12 hours and slowly extend the fasting period as your body adapts. Remember, fasting isn't about deprivation. It's about activating the upgrade program that your body already has built in. By understanding the mechanism, you can use it safely and effectively. Let's bring this all together. Mitochondria are the core energy source of your body. Without them, complex life as we know it wouldn't be possible. They are truly the invisible engines that power everything you do. Fasting activates a signaling cascade that flows from AMPK to SIRT1 to PGC1 alpha to NRF1 and NRF2, ultimately leading to the creation of new mitochondria. Each step in this cascade amplifies the signal, creating a powerful response to the simple act of not eating. This isn't theory. This is science that has been demonstrated through research at Harvard, UCLA, and leading research centers around the world. The practical results are more energy, better health, and slower aging. Every time you fast, you're not just not eating. You're sending a signal to billions of cells in your body. Build, repair, optimize. Your body is more intelligent than you might realize. It still remembers how to respond to periods without food. This is a survival mechanism preserved across millions of years of evolution. Our ancestors didn't have constant access to food. They went through regular cycles of feast and famine, and their bodies adapted to thrive in both states. In our modern world of constant food availability, we've lost touch with this ancient rhythm. Fasting is a way to reconnect with it. It's not about deprivation or punishment. It's about giving your body the signal it needs to activate its built-in repair and optimization programs. Knowledge is power. By understanding how your body works, you can unlock a new source of energy and vitality. Here's a question for you. Have you ever noticed your energy levels change after trying intermittent fasting? Share your experience in the comments below. And here's something to think about. Some researchers believe everyone should practice some form of fasting. Others say the benefits are overstated. What's your take? Is fasting essential for mitochondrial health, or are there other ways to achieve similar benefits? Let me know what you think. If this video helped you understand your body better, please like and subscribe to the channel. We have more content on biological optimization waiting for you. If you know someone who practices fasting but doesn't understand why it works, share this video with them. They'll finally understand what's happening inside their cells. In our next video, we'll explore what happens to your brain when you fast. The results might surprise you. Remember this: a period without food doesn't weaken you. It reveals the strength and intelligence your body has had all along. You're not just skipping meals. You're upgrading your cellular machinery one mitochondrion at a time. When most people think about fasting, they think about weight loss. Dropping a few pounds, fitting into old clothes, looking better in the mirror. And yes, fasting can help with all of that. But here's something you probably haven't considered. Every time you fast, something remarkable is happening inside your kidneys. Not damage, not stress, something protective. Your kidneys are quietly upgrading themselves at the cellular level. Old damaged parts are being cleared out. New, more efficient components are being built. Inflammation is being reduced. And the science behind this is genuinely fascinating. Most conversations about fasting focus on what happens to your waistline or your energy levels. Very few discuss what's happening to your internal organs. And that's a shame, because some of the most profound benefits of fasting happen in places you can't see. Your kidneys are a perfect example. This video is going to take you deep into what fasting actually does to your kidneys. Not the surface level stuff you've heard before, but the real biological mechanisms. We look at the research, understand the cellular processes, and explore why fasting might be one of the most powerful tools for building what scientists call kidney resilience. The ability of your kidneys to handle stress, recover from damage, and maintain their function as you age. But first, a quick note. This is educational content, not medical advice. If you have existing kidney problems or any chronic condition, talk to your doctor before making changes to your eating patterns. What works for healthy kidneys may not be appropriate for kidneys that are already compromised. Now let's start with the basics. Your kidneys are two bean-shaped organs sitting just below your rib cage. Most people don't think about them much. They don't get the attention that the heart or brain receives. But they're working constantly every second of every day, performing jobs that are absolutely essential for your survival. Their main job is filtering your blood. They remove waste products, excess water, and toxins that would otherwise accumulate and poison you. They balance your electrolytes, the minerals like sodium, potassium, and calcium that your cells need to function. They help regulate your blood pressure by controlling fluid levels. They produce hormones that help make red blood cells. They even activate vitamin D so your bones can absorb calcium. And here's a number that puts their workload into perspective. Your kidneys filter about 180 liters of blood every single day. That's roughly 45 gallons. To put that another way, they process your entire blood supply about 40 times before you go to sleep tonight. And they do this every day for your entire life. The filtering happens in tiny structures called nephrons. Each kidney contains about 1 million nephrons. Inside each nephron, blood flows through a cluster of tiny blood vessels called the glomerulus. The pressure pushes fluid out of the blood and through a filtering membrane. Useful substances get reabsorbed back into your blood. Waste products continue through tubes and eventually leave your body as urine. It's an incredibly sophisticated system that operates without any conscious thought on your part. Now here's where modern life creates a problem. The typical diet today is loaded with sugar, salt, and processed ingredients. We eat more frequently than any generation before us. Breakfast snacks, lunch. More snacks, dinner, dessert, maybe a late night snack. Food is constantly available, and we take advantage of that availability. Every meal sends a flood of substances through your kidneys that they have to deal with. High blood sugar damages the tiny blood vessels inside your kidneys over time. The glomeruli, those filtering clusters we mentioned, are particularly vulnerable. Excess salt forces your kidneys to work harder to maintain balance. They have to retain or excrete more water to keep sodium levels stable. Processed foods introduce artificial chemicals, preservatives, and additives that need to be filtered out. Over time, this constant workload can wear your kidneys down, not dramatically, not overnight. But slowly, year after year, the filtering capacity can decline. Nephrons can become damaged. The delicate membranes can develop scarring. Blood vessels can stiffen. This is why kidney disease has become increasingly common, affecting roughly 15% of adults in developed countries. And most of those people don't even know they have it until the damage is significant. This is also why the concept of kidney resilience matters. Resilience isn't about avoiding all stress. That's impossible in the real world. Resilience means your kidneys can handle stress, recover from damage, and maintain their function over the long term. It means having systems in place that protect and repair. And as we're about to see, fasting activates exactly these kinds of systems. So what does fasting have to do with any of this? When you stop eating, your body goes through a series of predictable changes. In the first several hours, you use up the glucose stored in your liver. This stored glucose is called glycogen, and there's enough of it to last maybe 12 to 24 hours, depending on your activity level. Once that's depleted, your body needs another energy source. It turns to fat. Your liver starts breaking down fatty acids and converting them into molecules called ketones. There are three main types of ketones: acetone, acetoacetate, and beta-hydroxybutyrate. Of these, beta-hydroxybutyrate is the most abundant and most studied. Now, for a long time, scientists thought ketones were just backup fuel, an emergency energy source to keep your brain and organs running when food wasn't available. The brain, in particular, can't directly use fat for energy. It needs either glucose or ketones. So ketone production was seen as purely a survival mechanism. But recent research has revealed something more interesting. Ketones aren't just fuel. They're signaling molecules. They communicate with your cells and trigger protective responses throughout the body. This discovery has changed how scientists think about fasting and metabolic health. When beta-hydroxybutyrate reaches your kidney cells, it does several important things. First, it reduces oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. These free radicals are natural byproducts of metabolism, but when they accumulate, they can damage cell membranes, proteins, and even DNA. Your kidneys are particularly vulnerable to oxidative stress because of their high metabolic activity. Beta-hydroxybutyrate helps neutralize this threat. Second, it helps suppress inflammation. We'll talk more about inflammation later, but for now, know that chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers of kidney damage. Beta-hydroxybutyrate can inhibit something called the NLRP3 inflammasome. That's a complex name, but the concept is simple. The inflammasome is like an alarm system inside cells. When it detects certain danger signals, it activates and triggers an inflammatory response. This is useful when you have an actual infection. But in many people, this alarm system becomes overactive. It fires even when there's no real threat, causing unnecessary inflammation. Beta-hydroxybutyrate helps keep this alarm system quiet, reducing the inflammatory burden on your kidneys. Third, beta-hydroxybutyrate may directly protect kidney cells from certain types of injury. Studies on acute kidney injury have shown that ketones can help cells survive damage that might otherwise kill them. So just by fasting long enough to produce ketones, which typically takes 12 to 24 hours, you're sending protective signals to your kidneys. You're giving them a chemical message that says it's time to activate defense systems. That's the first mechanism. The second mechanism is even more fascinating. It's called autophagy. The word comes from Greek. Auto means self. Phagy means eating. So autophagy literally means self-eating. It sounds alarming, but it's actually one of the most beneficial processes in your body. Here's what happens. Inside every cell, there are various components. Proteins that do different jobs, mitochondria that produce energy, various structures that keep the cell functioning. Over time, some of these components get damaged or worn out. Proteins can fold incorrectly and stop working. Mitochondria can become inefficient and start producing harmful byproducts. If these damaged parts accumulate, they can cause problems for the cell. Autophagy is the cleanup process. The cell identifies damaged components, breaks them down, and recycles the raw materials. It's like a quality control system that removes the broken parts and reuses what can be salvaged. Japanese scientist Yoshinori Osumi won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016 for his work uncovering how autophagy works at the molecular level. His research showed that this process is essential for cellular health and longevity. Now, here's why this matters for your kidneys specifically. Your kidneys contain specialized cells called podocytes. These cells are part of the filtering system. They wrap around tiny blood vessels and help determine what stays in your blood and what gets filtered out. Here's the critical point. Podocytes cannot divide. Unlike skin cells or blood cells that can replace themselves, podocytes are with you for life. If they die, they're gone. You don't make new ones. This means keeping your existing podocytes healthy is essential for maintaining kidney function as you age. Autophagy helps podocytes survive. By clearing out damaged proteins and dysfunctional mitochondria, autophagy prevents the accumulation of cellular garbage that could eventually kill these irreplaceable cells. Research has shown that podocytes have naturally high levels of autophagy compared to other cell types. Scientists believe this is precisely because these cells can't be replaced, so they need robust internal maintenance systems. When you fast, autophagy increases. This happens because fasting reduces insulin and activates an enzyme called AMPK. AMPK is an energy sensor. When energy is low, AMPK turns on pathways that help the cell adapt, including autophagy. So by fasting, you're essentially giving your kidney cells permission to run their internal cleanup program more intensively. The third mechanism involves something called mitochondrial biogenesis. Let me explain what that means. Mitochondria are the parts of cells that produce energy. You can think of them as tiny power generators. Every cell has hundreds or thousands of them. Your kidneys are particularly dependent on mitochondria because filtering blood requires enormous amounts of energy. In fact, Kidneys are the second most energy-demanding organs in your body, right after the heart. As mitochondria age, they become less efficient. They produce less energy and generate more harmful byproducts. Old damaged mitochondria are a major contributor to cellular dysfunction and disease. Mitochondrial biogenesis is the process of creating new mitochondria. It's how cells replace their aging tertin, power generators, with fresh, efficient ones. Fasting stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis through a protein called PGC1 alpha. This protein is sometimes called the master regulator of mitochondrial production. When you fast PGC1 alpha, levels increase in multiple tissues, including the kidneys. A study published in PLOS 1 specifically found that fasting increases PGC1 alpha expression in kidney tissue. This means fasting can help your kidney cells build new, healthier mitochondria. More efficient mitochondria means better energy production. Better energy production means kidney cells can do their job more effectively. And healthier cells means better organ function overall. The fourth mechanism is perhaps the most directly relevant to long-term kidney health. It's the reduction of chronic inflammation. Inflammation is a normal part of your immune response. When you cut your finger, the area becomes red, warm, and swollen. That's acute inflammation, and it's helpful. It's your body fighting infection and starting the healing process. But there's another type of inflammation that's not helpful at all. It's called chronic low-grade inflammation. This happens when inflammatory signals stay elevated all the time, even without an obvious injury or infection. Modern diets, high in sugar and processed foods, contribute to this. So does obesity. So does lack of exercise. Chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers of kidney damage. It promotes fibrosis, which is the formation of scar tissue inside the kidneys. Scar tissue doesn't filter blood. As fibrosis progresses, kidney function declines. Research has shown that fasting reduces multiple markers of inflammation. A study published in January 2025 from Busan National University in South Korea examined this directly. Researchers looked at mice that had experienced acute kidney injury. Normally, acute kidney injury often progresses to chronic kidney disease over time. But mice that followed an intermittent fasting pattern, specifically a 5-2 schedule, where they fasted 2 days per week, showed significantly less progression to chronic disease. The fasting mice had lower levels of inflammatory markers, including TNF-alpha, IL-6, and IL-1 beta. They also had reduced activation of kappa B, which is a protein that controls the expression of inflammatory genes, and they showed less fibrosis in their kidney tissue. This is significant because it suggests fasting might help protect kidneys not just from general wear and tear, but specifically from the progression of acute injury to chronic disease. Now let's talk about what this means in practical terms. There are different approaches to fasting. Some people practice time-restricted eating where they limit their food intake to a specific window each day, like 8 hours. Others do longer fasts periodically, like 24 hours, once or twice a week. Some follow the 5-2 pattern used in the research study, eating normally 5 days and restricting calories significantly on 2 days. The research suggests that the benefits for kidneys don't require extreme fasting. The mice in the Busan study weren't fasting for days at a time. They were doing intermittent fasting that could realistically be adopted by humans. However, and this is important, there are situations where fasting could be problematic for kidneys. If you don't drink enough water during a fast, you can become dehydrated. Dehydration concentrates your blood and makes your kidneys work harder. It can also increase the risk of kidney stones. This is why hydration during fasting is absolutely essential. You should actually drink more water when fasting, not less. Also, if you already have significant kidney disease, fasting may not be appropriate without medical supervision. The research showing benefits has primarily been done on healthy subjects or animals. People with compromised kidney function may respond differently. If you're taking medications that affect kidney function or require food for proper absorption, you need to talk to your doctor before fasting. And if you have a history of eating disorders, fasting may not be psychologically safe for you. For healthy people, the signs that something is wrong during a fast include dark urine that doesn't improve with drinking water, severe dizziness, especially when standing up, persistent nausea or vomiting, heart palpitations, and severe muscle cramps. If any of these occur and don't resolve quickly with rest and hydration, it's time to end the fast and consult a healthcare professional. But for most healthy adults, intermittent fasting appears to be not only safe for kidneys, but potentially beneficial. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Your kidneys evolved over millions of years. For most of human history, food was not constantly available. Our ancestors went through regular periods without eating, sometimes by choice as part of cultural or spiritual practices, often by necessity because the hunt was unsuccessful or the harvest hadn't come in yet. Periods of feast and famine were normal. They were the rhythm of life. Their kidneys had to function during these lean periods. And not just function, but maintain the body well enough to go out and find food. Evolution doesn't keep mechanisms that don't work. Over thousands of generations, our bodies developed systems to not just survive, but thrive during food scarcity. The individuals whose bodies handled fasting well were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. The individuals whose bodies couldn't adapt didn't make it. Autophagy, mitochondrial biogenesis, ketone production, and the other processes we've discussed aren't accidents. They're not side effects of starvation. They're built-in programs that activate specifically when food intake stops. They're part of what made human survival possible during the countless periods of scarcity our ancestors faced. Modern life has changed everything. We've removed the normal fasting periods that our bodies expect. We eat from the moment we wake up until we go to sleep. Many people even eat during the night. Refrigerators, grocery stores, fast food delivery apps. Food is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we take advantage of it. This constant feeding keeps these protective programs turned off. The signals that would normally activate autophagy and cellular repair never get sent. Fasting doesn't force your body to do something unnatural. It allows your body to do what it's designed to do. It removes the constant stream of food that's been suppressing your natural repair systems. It reactivates ancient programs that promote cellular health and organ function. Programs that your body is literally waiting to run. For your kidneys specifically, this means better cellular maintenance, reduced inflammation, improved energy production, and potentially greater resilience against damage. It means giving these essential organs the conditions they evolved to expect. Now, is fasting a cure for kidney disease? No. The research doesn't support that claim, and you should be skeptical of anyone who says otherwise. But is fasting a tool that can support kidney health as part of an overall healthy lifestyle? The evidence increasingly suggests yes. Combined with proper hydration, a balanced diet during eating periods, regular exercise, and appropriate medical care, fasting may help your kidneys stay healthier for longer. So after everything we've covered, what's the takeaway? Fasting is not just about weight loss. It's not just about mental clarity or energy, though those benefits are real. It's about giving your cells, including your kidney cells, the opportunity to repair, regenerate, and function optimally. It's about reactivating systems that evolution built into your biology, but that modern eating patterns have suppressed. Every time you extend the gap between meals, you're allowing autophagy to clean up cellular debris in your kidneys. You're letting your body produce ketones that signal protection and reduce oxidative stress. You're activating genes that build new mitochondria, giving your kidney cells more efficient power generators. You're reducing the inflammatory burden that slowly damages your filtering system over time. These aren't small changes. Over months and years, they add up. They contribute to kidney resilience, the ability to maintain function even as you age and face various stressors. Your kidneys work hard for you every day. They filter your blood, maintain your balance, remove toxins, and keep you healthy. They do all of this silently, without complaint, without asking for anything in return. Fasting might be one way to return the favor, a way to give them the conditions they need to repair and maintain themselves. If you found this information valuable, consider subscribing for more content about how your body actually works. We dive deep into the science, explain the mechanisms, and help you understand what's really happening inside you. And if you know someone who might benefit from understanding the connection between fasting and kidney health, share this video with them. In our next video, we'll explore what happens when you end a fast, because how you break a fast matters just as much as the fast itself. The wrong approach can undo some of the benefits you've worked to achieve. Make sure you don't miss it. What's your experience with fasting? Have you noticed any changes in how you feel? Are you going to think about your kidneys differently now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The discussion there is always interesting, and we read every comment. Most people know fasting can help with weight loss. Some know it improves insulin sensitivity. Others have heard about autophagy, the cellular cleanup process. But there's one benefit of fasting that almost nobody talks about. What happens to your red blood cells when you stop eating? Right now, as you're listening to this, your body is producing millions of red blood cells. These tiny cells are carrying oxygen from your lungs to every organ, every muscle, every corner of your body. Without them, you couldn't survive for more than a few minutes. And yet, most of us never think about them until something goes wrong. This might sound like a small detail, but it's not. Red blood cells carry oxygen to every tissue in your body, your brain, your heart, your muscles. They all depend on these cells to function. And recent research suggests that fasting doesn't just affect how many red blood cells your body makes. It may actually improve the quality of those cells. Today we're going to walk through exactly what happens to your red blood cells during a fast. From the moment you stop eating to what occurs in your bone marrow to how your body optimizes oxygen delivery. This is science, not speculation. And by the end, you'll understand your blood in a way you never have before. Before we dive in, this is educational content, not medical advice. If you're considering any form of extended fasting, talk to your doctor first. Let's start with some basics. Red blood cells are unlike any other cell in your body. They have no nucleus. They have no mitochondria. They're essentially small, flexible discs filled with a protein called hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen in your lungs and releases it to tissues that need it. Each red blood cell lives for about 120 days before it's broken down and recycled. And here's something remarkable. Your body produces approximately 2 million new red blood cells every single second. This happens in your bone marrow, the spongy tissue inside your bones. It's a constant process of creation and destruction, perfectly balanced to maintain the oxygen carrying capacity your body needs. So what happens to this process when you fast? In the first few hours after your last meal, your blood glucose levels begin to drop. Insulin, the hormone that helps cells absorb glucose, drops as well. Your body starts tapping into glycogen, the stored form of glucose in your liver. This is all normal. Your body does this every night while you sleep. But here's what's interesting. Your bone marrow can sense these changes. It receives signals from hormones and nutrients circulating in your blood. When insulin drops and glucose becomes less available, the bone marrow gets a message that nutrients are scarce. This is the first step in a chain of adaptive responses. Your bone marrow is not just a passive factory. It's an intelligent system that monitors the nutritional state of your entire body. It adjusts its production based on what resources are available and what the body needs. This communication between nutrition and blood production is something scientists have only recently begun to fully understand. Now, nothing dramatic happens to your red blood cells in these early hours. Production continues as normal, but the signaling environment is beginning to shift. The bone marrow is receiving new information and it's preparing to respond. As you move past the 12-hour mark and approach 24 hours without food, something more significant begins. Deep inside your bone marrow are cells called hematopoietic stem cells. These are the master cells that can develop into any type of blood cell, including red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Normally, these stem cells work at a steady pace. They produce enough blood cells to replace the ones that die off each day. But during extended fasting, research shows these stem cells change their behavior. In 2014, Professor Walter Longo and his team at the University of Southern California made a significant discovery. They found that prolonged fasting reduces levels of an enzyme called PKA and a hormone called IGF-1. When PKA levels drop, something interesting happens. The stem cells shift from a dormant state to what researchers call a self-renewal state. Professor Longo described this as flipping a regenerative switch. The stem cells begin multiplying more actively, preparing for a period of regeneration. This was one of the first studies to show that fasting could directly influence blood cell production at the stem cell level. The implications of this research are significant. For decades, scientists believed that the only way to boost blood cell production was through external stimulation, like injecting hormones such as erythropoietin. But this research showed that the body has its own internal mechanism for enhancing blood cell production, and fasting can trigger it. Let me be clear about what this means. The stem cells aren't immediately releasing more red blood cells into your bloodstream. They're preparing. They're building up their numbers so that when nutrients become available again, they can produce new blood cells more efficiently. It's like a factory increasing its workforce during a slow period, getting ready for when business picks up again. Between 24 and 48 hours of fasting, the effects on red blood cell production become more pronounced. Research from Suzhou University in China, published between 2022 and 2023, examined what they called short-term intensive fasting. They found that this type of fasting promotes the production of red blood cells through a specific pathway. Here's what happens. In your bone marrow, a stem cell doesn't become a red blood cell overnight. It goes through several stages of development. First, it becomes what's called a progenitor cell. Then it develops through various stages until it finally becomes a mature red blood cell. This entire process takes about 7 days. The Suzhou University research found that fasting accelerates the transition from early-stage cells to mature red blood cells. The body seems to prioritize resources for red blood cell production. This makes sense from a survival perspective. Even without food, your body still needs oxygen. Red blood cells are essential for delivering that oxygen. One particularly interesting finding was that people with lower red blood cell counts still within the normal range, but on the lower end showed more pronounced effects. Their bodies seemed to respond more strongly to the fasting signal, as if the system recognized where improvement was most needed. I want to pause here and note something important. Individual responses to fasting vary significantly. People with blood disorders or those taking medications that affect blood production should be especially careful and should only attempt extended fasting under medical supervision. Now let's talk about what happens between 48 and 72 hours. This is where autophagy becomes relevant to red blood cell health. Autophagy is the process by which cells break down and recycle their own damaged components. You may have heard about autophagy in the context of general health benefits, but it plays a specific and crucial role in red blood cell development. Remember, mature red blood cells have no nucleus and no mitochondria. But developing red blood cells do have these components. Before a developing red blood cell can become mature, it must remove its mitochondria, its ribosomes, and other internal structures. This removal process depends heavily on autophagy. Research has shown exactly how important this is. Scientists studied mice that lacked a gene called ATG7, which is essential for autophagy. These mice developed severe anemia. Their red blood cells couldn't properly remove damaged mitochondria, which led to cell death and poor function. What does this have to do with fasting? Fasting is one of the most powerful natural triggers of autophagy. When you fast, autophagy becomes more active throughout your body, including in developing red blood cells. This means the cleanup process happens more efficiently. The developing cells are better able to remove damaged components, resulting in healthier, mature red blood cells. The connection here is important to understand. When you eat regularly, autophagy happens at a baseline level. Your cells do some cleaning, but not as intensively. When you fast, especially for extended periods, autophagy ramps up significantly. The cleanup becomes more thorough. For developing red blood cells, this means they can complete their maturation process more efficiently, ending up as healthier, more functional cells. This is one reason why the quality of red blood cells may improve during fasting, not just the quantity. It's not enough to produce more cells. Those cells need to be healthy and functional. Enhanced autophagy helps ensure that the cells being produced are as clean and efficient as possible. Let's move on to oxygen transport. This is ultimately why red blood cells matter. Their job is to pick up oxygen in your lungs and deliver it to tissues throughout your body. Inside each red blood cell, hemoglobin is the protein that actually binds to oxygen. But hemoglobin doesn't just grab oxygen and hold on to it. It needs to know when to hold tight and when to let go. In the lungs where oxygen is abundant, hemoglobin binds oxygen. In tissues that need oxygen, hemoglobin releases it. This release process is regulated by several factors, including a molecule called 2,3-DPG. When 2,3-DPG binds to hemoglobin, it makes hemoglobin release oxygen more easily. This is a delicate balance. Too much release in the wrong place, and oxygen doesn't get where it needs to go. Too little release and tissues don't get enough oxygen. The research from Cornell University measured 2,3-DPG levels during fasting. They found that fasting did not alter 2,3-DPG levels, which means oxygen delivery capacity remained stable. This is good news. It means that while fasting triggers changes in red blood cell production and quality, it doesn't disrupt the fundamental ability of those cells to deliver oxygen. This finding addresses a concern that some people have about fasting. If fasting changes so many things in the body, does it impair basic functions? In the case of oxygen delivery, the answer appears to be no. The red blood cells continue to do their primary job effectively. The same research also looked at the antioxidant capacity of red blood cells. This is important because red blood cells are constantly exposed to oxygen, which can generate harmful molecules called free radicals. These free radicals can damage the cell membrane, damage hemoglobin, and ultimately lead to cell death. Red blood cells have their own defense system, including glutathione and enzymes like catalase and superoxide dismutase that neutralize these free radicals. Maintaining this defense system is critical. A red blood cell with weak antioxidant defenses will age faster and die sooner. A cell with strong defenses can complete its full 120-day lifespan and deliver oxygen effectively throughout that time. Studies on long-term fasting have shown that total antioxidant capacity in the blood actually increases during fasting. At the same time, markers of oxidative damage like lipid peroxidation decrease. This suggests that fasting may help protect red blood cells from the kind of damage that shortens their lifespan. Now let's discuss who should not attempt extended fasting. This is not a recommendation I take lightly. Pregnant or breastfeeding women should not fast for extended periods. People with a history of eating disorders should avoid fasting as it can trigger harmful patterns. Those with insulin-dependent diabetes need careful medical supervision if they fast at all. People with chronic kidney disease face additional risks. Anyone who is underweight should not attempt extended fasting. And people taking medications that require food should consult their doctor before fasting. If you experience severe dizziness that doesn't improve with rest, heart palpitations, or irregular heartbeat, confusion, or difficulty thinking clearly, or persistent nausea and vomiting, stop your fast immediately and seek medical attention. These symptoms, lasting more than 30 minutes, are warning signs that should not be ignored. Now here's something that might surprise you. The most significant regeneration doesn't happen during the fast itself. It happens after. When you start eating again, the signaling pathways that were suppressed during fasting become active again. pKa levels rise, nutrients flood back into the system, and all those stem cells that were preparing during the fast, they start producing. Research on people who completed extended fasts found something interesting. The number of reticulocytes, which are young red blood cells that have just been released from the bone marrow into the bloodstream, peaked not immediately after the fast ended, but about 1.5 to 2.5 weeks later. This means the refeeding phase is just as important as the fasting phase. The fast triggers the preparation. The refeeding triggers the production. Together, they form a complete cycle of regeneration. Many people focus entirely on the fasting period. They count the hours they track their ketone levels. They celebrate when they reach their target duration. But based on this research, the refeeding phase deserves just as much attention. This is when your body actually uses all the preparation it did during the fast. This has practical implications for how you end a fast. Eating too much too quickly can shock your digestive system. Your body has been in a different metabolic state, and it needs time to transition back. But it's not just about digestive comfort. A gradual refeeding allows your body to properly utilize the regenerative potential that built up during the fast. Start with light, easily digestible foods. Give your system time to adjust. Some people break their fast with bone broth, which provides nutrients without overwhelming the digestive system. Others start with small portions of easily digestible proteins or vegetables. The key is patience. You've invested time in the fast. Invest a little more time in breaking it properly. So what have we learned? Fasting is more than just not eating. It's a signal to your body, one that your bone marrow, your stem cells, and your blood production system all respond to. From the initial drop in insulin that alerts your bone marrow to nutrient scarcity, to the activation of stem cell self-renewal, to enhanced autophagy that improves red blood cell quality, to the regenerative burst that occurs during refeeding. Your body has remarkable mechanisms for adapting to periods without food. What's particularly fascinating is how coordinated this response is. Your body doesn't just react to fasting in one way. Multiple systems respond together, working toward a common goal of maintaining function while preparing for renewal. The bone marrow senses the change. The stem cells adjust their behavior. The developing blood cells clean themselves more efficiently. And when food returns, everything is ready to regenerate. This doesn't mean fasting is right for everyone, or that longer fasts are always better. The research shows benefits, but it also shows that individual responses vary. Some people respond more strongly than others. Some people have conditions that make fasting risky. What it means is that when done appropriately and safely, fasting may offer benefits that go far beyond weight loss. It may actually help renew your blood at the cellular level. The research in this area is still developing. Scientists are continuing to investigate exactly how different fasting protocols affect blood cell production and function. But what we know so far suggests that the relationship between fasting and red blood cells is more significant than most people realize. Here's a question I'll leave you with. Many people focus entirely on the fasting period itself. But given what we've discussed about the refeeding phase being when maximum regeneration occurs, what do you think matters more, the fast itself or how you break it? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you've tried fasting before, share your experience. And if you know someone who's interested in the deeper science of fasting, this might be the video that gives them a new perspective. In our next video, we'll dive into the most common mistakes people make when breaking a fast and exactly how to avoid them. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Your body is more intelligent than you might realize. Sometimes giving it a break from constant eating is exactly what it needs to rebuild and renew. The next time you consider fasting, remember that it's not just about the hours without food. It's about what's happening inside you during those hours in your bones, in your blood, in the very cells that keep you alive. That's the science of fasting and your red blood cells. Have you ever wondered why the same meal affects your body differently depending on when you eat it? A sandwich at noon feels like fuel. The same sandwich at midnight feels like a mistake. Most people think it's about what you eat or how much you eat. But science is now showing us something fascinating. Your body also cares deeply about when you eat. This is the idea behind circadian fasting. It's a way of eating that works with your body's internal clock, not against it. And today, we're going to explore exactly how this works, why timing matters so much, and what happens inside your body when you start eating in sync with your natural rhythms. Before we go further, a quick note. This is educational content, not medical advice. If you have any health conditions, please talk to your doctor before making changes to your eating patterns. Now let's start with the basics. Your body runs on a 24-hour cycle. This cycle is called your circadian rhythm. It controls when you feel awake, when you feel sleepy, when your body temperature rises and falls, and yes, when your body is best prepared to process food. This internal clock isn't just one clock. It's actually many clocks working together. Deep in your brain, there's a small region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It sits right behind your eyes. This region receives light signals from your eyes and uses that information to coordinate your entire body's daily rhythm. Think of it as the master clock. But here's what's interesting. Your liver has its own clock. Your pancreas has its own clock. Your intestines, your muscles, your fat tissue, they all have their own internal timekeepers. These are called peripheral clocks. And they don't just follow the master clock blindly. They also respond to other signals, especially food. When you eat, you send a powerful timing signal to these organs. You're essentially telling your liver, your pancreas, and your gut what time it is. This is why eating at odd hours can confuse your body. Your brain says it's nighttime, but your gut thinks it's mealtime. The signals don't match, and that mismatch has consequences. So what exactly happens when you eat at different times of day? Let's talk about insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. Insulin's job is to help move that sugar from your blood into your cells, where it can be used for energy. Here's the key point. Your cells don't respond to insulin the same way throughout the day. In the morning, your cells are more sensitive to insulin. This means when you eat breakfast, insulin works efficiently. Sugar moves into your cells quickly. Your blood sugar rises a little, then comes back down smoothly. But in the evening, something changes. Your cells become less responsive to insulin. The same amount of carbohydrates causes a higher spike in blood sugar. It takes longer for that sugar to clear from your bloodstream. This isn't a flaw in your body. It's by design. Your body expects you to be active during the day and resting at night. During the day, your muscles need fuel, so your body is ready to process and distribute energy. At night, your body shifts into repair mode. It's not expecting a large influx of food. There's another factor that makes evening eating more problematic: melatonin. As the sun goes down and darkness sets in, your brain starts producing melatonin. This hormone helps you feel sleepy and prepares your body for rest. But melatonin also affects your pancreas. It reduces your pancreas's ability to produce insulin. So when you eat late at night, you're dealing with a double challenge. Your cells are already less sensitive to insulin, and your pancreas is producing less of it. The result is that food, especially carbohydrates, gets processed much less efficiently. This isn't opinion. This is basic physiology. Let me explain this another way to make it really clear. Imagine your body as a factory. During the day shift, all the workers are present, the machines are running, and everything is optimized for production. Food comes in, gets processed efficiently, and the products go where they need to go. But at night, the factory switches to maintenance mode. Most workers go home. The machines slow down. A skeleton crew handles basic operations and repairs. Now imagine forcing that night crew to suddenly process a full day's worth of materials. They can do it, but not well. Things pile up. Mistakes happen. The system gets stressed. That's essentially what happens when you eat a large meal late at night. Your metabolic machinery isn't staffed for heavy processing. It can handle the food, but not optimally. Researchers at the Salk Institute, led by Dr. Sachin Panda, have studied this extensively. In one famous experiment, they gave two groups of mice the exact same food with the exact same calories. The only difference was timing. One group could eat whenever they wanted around the clock. The other group could only eat during an 8 to 10 hour window during their active phase. The results were striking. The mice who ate within a restricted time window were healthier. They had less body fat, better blood sugar control, and reduced inflammation. The mice who ate around the clock became obese and developed metabolic problems, even though they consumed the same number of calories. Similar patterns have been observed in human studies. When people eat the majority of their calories earlier in the day, they tend to lose more weight and have better metabolic markers than when they eat the same calories later in the day. So this brings us to the practical question. What is circadian fasting and how does it work? The basic principle is simple. Eat when there's light. Fast when it's dark. Your eating window typically falls within 8 to 12 hours, starting early in the day. You finish your last meal well before bedtime, ideally at least 3 hours before you sleep. Now you might be thinking this sounds a lot like intermittent fasting. And you're right, there's overlap. But there's also an important difference. Standard intermittent fasting focuses mainly on the duration of your fast. A 16-8 protocol means you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window. But it doesn't specify when that window should be. Many people practicing 16-8 skip breakfast and eat from noon to 8 p.m. It fits their social schedule. Dinner with family, evening events, late night snacks, all still possible. But from a circadian perspective, this isn't optimal. An eating window from noon to 8 p.m. means you're consuming food during the time when your insulin sensitivity is declining. You're eating dinner when your melatonin is starting to rise. Circadian fasting suggests a different approach. What if your 8-hour window was from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. instead, or 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.? You'd be eating during the hours when your body is most prepared to handle food. Your insulin would work more efficiently, your blood sugar would stay more stable, and you'd give your digestive system a long rest before sleep. This is the core insight. It's not just about how long you fast, it's about when you fast. Let's look at what happens inside your body when you align your eating with your circadian rhythm. During the day when you eat, your body enters what scientists call the fed state. Energy is available. Your body focuses on digestion, absorption, and storage. Insulin is active. Nutrients are being distributed to cells throughout your body. During the night when you fast, your body enters a different mode. Without incoming food, insulin levels drop. Your body starts accessing stored energy. Your liver releases glucose to keep your blood sugar stable. Fat cells release fatty acids to be used as fuel. But something else happens too. When you're not digesting food, your body has more resources available for maintenance and repair. Cells can focus on cleaning up damaged components. Your gut lining can repair itself. Inflammation can settle down. There's a process called autophagy that becomes more active during fasting periods. Autophagy is your body's way of recycling old or damaged cell parts. It's like a cleaning crew that comes through when the office is empty. They can't do their job properly if people are still working and making messes. When you eat late into the night, you essentially keep the office occupied around the clock. The cleaning crew never gets a proper chance to do their work. Over time, cellular debris accumulates. Systems that should be maintained start to deteriorate. This is why the timing of your eating window matters so much. When you eat late into the night, you're keeping your body in fed mode, when it should be in repair mode. You're asking your digestive system to work when it should be resting. Over time, this mismatch can contribute to metabolic problems. Weight gain, elevated blood sugar, poor sleep, increased inflammation. These have all been associated with eating patterns that conflict with circadian rhythms. Now let's talk about the potential benefits of eating in sync with your body clock. First, blood sugar control. Studies have shown that time-restricted eating, especially when the eating window is earlier in the day, can improve insulin sensitivity. For people at risk of type 2 diabetes, this could be particularly meaningful. When your body handles blood sugar more efficiently, you reduce the strain on your pancreas and decrease your risk of metabolic disease. Second, sleep quality. When you stop eating several hours before bed, you give your digestive system time to wind down. Your body temperature can drop naturally, which is necessary for deep sleep. Melatonin can do its job without competing with insulin. Many people report sleeping more soundly when they stop eating earlier in the evening. Third, weight management. This isn't necessarily because you're eating fewer calories, although that might happen naturally. It's because your body processes food more efficiently when you eat during daylight hours. Less gets stored as fat. More gets used as energy. There's also an interesting psychological effect. When you have a defined eating window that ends in the afternoon or early evening, mindless snacking becomes less of an issue. You're not reaching for chips at 10 p.m. because you've already closed your eating window. For many people, those late night calories were the hardest to control anyway. Fourth, reduced inflammation. Some research suggests that time-restricted eating can lower markers of inflammation in the body. Chronic inflammation is linked to many diseases from heart disease to cancer. Anything that helps reduce it is worth considering. I want to be clear about something. These benefits come from scientific research, but the science is still evolving. Not everyone will experience the same results. Individual responses vary based on genetics, lifestyle, existing health conditions, and many other factors. So who might benefit from trying circadian fasting? If you're looking to improve your sleep quality, this approach might help. If you want more stable energy throughout the day without the afternoon crash, eating earlier could make a difference. If you already practice intermittent fasting and want to optimize it, further shifting your eating window earlier is worth experimenting with. If you have a regular daytime schedule and can realistically eat earlier, you're in a good position to try this. But circadian fasting isn't right for everyone. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, your nutritional needs are different. Restricting eating times isn't recommended without medical guidance. If you have a history of eating disorders, any form of fasting or time restriction should be approached carefully and ideally with professional support. If you have diabetes and take medication, especially insulin, changing your eating patterns can affect your blood sugar in ways that require medical supervision. If you work night shifts, your circadian rhythm is already disrupted. Trying to follow a standard circadian eating pattern might not work for you and could even make things worse. If you're a child or teenager still growing, your body needs consistent nutrition throughout the day. There are also warning signs to watch for. If you experience persistent dizziness, severe difficulty concentrating, significant mood changes, or serious sleep disruption, these are signals to stop and reassess. Listen to your body. If something feels wrong, don't push through it. Let's also be honest about the practical challenges. For many people, dinner is the main meal of the day. It's when families gather. It's when social events happen. Friends meet for dinner, not for breakfast. Asking someone to finish eating by 3 or 4 in the afternoon is a big lifestyle change. Work schedules add another layer of complexity. Not everyone can sit down to a proper breakfast before rushing to the office. Lunch might be eaten at a desk between meetings. By the time you're home and relaxed, it's evening. And then there's habit. If you've spent years eating dinner at 7 or 8 p.m., your body and mind are used to that pattern. Hunger signals are partially learned. Changing them takes time. The hunger you feel at certain times isn't just about physical need. It's also about expectation. Your body has learned to anticipate food at certain hours, and it sends hunger signals accordingly. When you change your eating schedule, those signals will eventually adjust, but it takes patience. The first week or two might feel uncomfortable as your body recalibrates. So what's the realistic approach? Perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. If you currently eat your last meal at 9 p.m., try moving it to 8 p.m. for a week, then 7 p.m. Gradual changes are easier to maintain than dramatic ones. If a strict early eating window isn't possible every day, do it when you can. 5 days a week of earlier eating is better than 0 days. Weekdays might be easier to control than weekends. And remember, circadian fasting is a tool, not a rule. You can adjust it to fit your life. The goal is to move closer to alignment with your body's natural rhythms, not to achieve perfect compliance. So let's bring this all together. Your body has an internal clock that influences how it processes food. Eating during daylight hours when insulin sensitivity is high and your digestive system is active allows your body to handle nutrients more efficiently. Eating late at night when melatonin is rising and insulin sensitivity is low makes it harder for your body to process the same food. Circadian fasting is about working with this biology, not against it. It's not just about restricting when you eat. It's about synchronizing your meals with your body's natural readiness to receive them. This is science, not a trend. It's based on decades of research into chronobiology and metabolism. And while it won't work perfectly for everyone, understanding these principles can help you make more informed choices about when you eat. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require you to change what you eat. You don't need special foods, supplements, or complicated meal plans. You're simply adjusting the timing of meals you're already eating. For many people, that's a much easier change to make than overhauling their entire diet. Of course, what you eat still matters. Circadian fasting won't magically make junk food healthy. But when you combine good food choices with good timing, you're giving your body the best chance to thrive. What time do you usually eat your last meal of the day? I'm curious. Drop a comment below and let me know. And here's something to think about. We always hear that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but some people skip it entirely and feel fine. Others swear by it. Based on what we've discussed today, what do you think? Does it depend on the person, or is there a biological truth here? If you found this helpful and want to understand more about how your body works, make sure to subscribe. We explore the science behind everyday habits so you can make choices that actually work for your biology. In the next video, we look at what happens when you eat just one meal a day. OMAD, or one meal. A day has become increasingly popular, but is it safe? Is it effective? And does it matter what time that one meal happens? We'll break down the science. See you there. Your immune system is working right now. Millions of cells inside your body are patrolling, detecting, and destroying threats you will never even know existed. Bacteria, viruses, abnormal cells. Your immune system handles them all every single day. But here is something fascinating. There is a simple, free, and scientifically proven way to make this defense system even stronger. Something humans have been doing for thousands of years, often without understanding why it worked. That method is fasting. Before we go any further, this is educational content, not medical advice. If you have any health conditions or take medications, talk to your doctor before trying any fasting protocol. In this video, we will explore exactly what happens inside your body when you stop eating, and why not eating might be one of the most powerful things you can do for your immune health. Let us start by understanding what we are actually trying to strengthen. Your immune system is not a single organ. It is a complex network of cells, tissues, and organs working together to protect you. Think of it as a fortress with multiple layers of defense. The first layer is innate immunity. This is your body's rapid response team. It reacts immediately to any invader, regardless of what it is. Your skin, the mucus in your nose, fever, inflammation. These are all part of innate immunity. It is fast, but not specific. It treats every threat the same way. The second layer is adaptive immunity. This is your specialized defense force. It takes longer to activate, usually several days, but it has a remarkable ability. It remembers. Once your adaptive immune system encounters a specific pathogen, it creates a memory. If the same threat appears again, your body responds much faster. This is why you usually only get chickenpox once. Both layers need to work together for optimal protection, and both can be influenced by how you live. Here is the problem. Modern life is not kind to our immune systems. Chronic sleep deprivation suppresses immune function. Constant stress floods your body with cortisol, which over time weakens your defenses. Diets high in sugar and processed foods create chronic inflammation. Lack of physical activity reduces the circulation of immune cells. Many people are walking around with immune systems that are overworked, underpowered, and prematurely aged. So the question becomes, is there a way to reset this system to clear out old damaged components and allow your body to rebuild its defenses fresh? This is where fasting enters the picture. And the story begins with a simple observation from nature. When animals get sick, they do something counterintuitive. They stop eating. Dogs, cats, horses, elephants, even fruit flies. Across the animal kingdom, sick animals refuse food. Scientists call this sickness-associated anorexia. For a long time, doctors assumed this loss of appetite was just a symptom, something to overcome by forcing sick patients to eat. But researchers started asking, what if this is not a symptom? What if it is a treatment? The ancient Greeks noticed this pattern thousands of years ago. They observed that humans, like other animals, naturally lose appetite when sick. They called it the physician within. Hippocrates wrote that to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness. He believed fasting gave the body space to fight infection. Now modern science is confirming what Hippocrates intuited. This instinct to stop eating during illness is not a bug in our biology. It is a feature preserved through millions of years of evolution because it works. But how does it work? What actually happens inside your cells when you stop eating? The answer lies in a process called autophagy. This word comes from Greek and means self-eating. But do not let the name alarm you. Autophagy is one of the most beneficial processes in your body. Your cells constantly accumulate damage. Proteins become misfolded. Mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells, become dysfunctional. Bacteria and viruses can hide inside cells. Over time, this cellular debris builds up. Autophagy is your body's cleaning system. During autophagy, your cells identify old, damaged, or dangerous components, break them down, and recycle the raw materials to build new, healthy components. Here is the key point. Autophagy is regulated by nutrient availability. When you eat especially carbohydrates and proteins, insulin rises. High insulin activates a pathway called mTOR. When mTOR is active, it tells your cells to grow, but it suppresses autophagy. When you stop eating, the opposite happens. Insulin drops. mTOR becomes less active. Autophagy gets switched on. This is why eating constantly, always snacking, keeps autophagy suppressed. Your cells never get the chance to clean house. In 2016, Japanese scientist Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize for his discoveries about autophagy. This was Nobel Prize-winning research confirming that cellular cleaning is fundamental to health. For your immune system, autophagy plays several critical roles. It can directly destroy bacteria and viruses hiding inside cells. It helps present pieces of invaders to your adaptive immune system, training your defenses to recognize threats. It removes damaged mitochondria that can trigger harmful inflammation. So fasting activates autophagy, and autophagy strengthens immunity. But the story does not stop there. In the first 0 to 12 hours after your last meal, your body is still processing food. But as hours pass and no new food arrives, insulin begins to drop. As insulin falls, something interesting happens with inflammation. There is a protein complex in your cells called the NLRP3 inflammasome. It acts as a sensor and alarm system. When it detects danger, it triggers inflammation. Useful in acute situations. But when constantly activated, it creates chronic inflammation that damages tissues and wears down your immune system. Fasting begins to quiet this alarm system. Research from the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute in 2024 discovered that during fasting, a fatty acid called arachidonic acid increases. This arachidonic acid directly inhibits the NLRP3 inflammasome, turning down unnecessary inflammation. Your body also releases cortisol during fasting. In this context, it is actually helpful. This cortisol helps control inflammatory cascades, working similarly to anti-inflammatory medications. Interestingly, dexamethasone, a drug doctors use to treat severe infections in intensive care units, works through a similar mechanism. Your body is producing its own natural version of this protection. By the end of this first phase, your digestive system begins to rest. The energy normally devoted to breaking down and processing food becomes available for other purposes. Your body is preparing for what comes next. Between 12 and 24 hours, your body makes a significant metabolic shift. Glucose stored in your liver runs low. Blood sugar drops, and your liver begins producing ketone bodies from fat. This shift has important implications for fighting infection. Bacteria love glucose. They depend on it to grow and multiply. Your cells can use either glucose or ketones for energy. But most bacteria cannot efficiently metabolize ketones. When you fast and your body switches to burning fat and producing ketones, you cut off the food supply to bacterial invaders while your own cells continue functioning normally. You are starving the enemy while feeding yourself. This is one reason why loss of appetite during infection may have evolved. By naturally reducing food intake, your body automatically shifts into this pathogen-starving state. Evolution selected for this response because it helped our ancestors survive infections. Research has also shown that linoleic acid, which increases during fasting, can bind to certain sites on some viruses, potentially reducing their ability to attach to your cells. Scientists have discovered that some viruses have pockets on their surface where linoleic acid can fit, and when it does, the virus becomes less effective at latching onto human cells. This metabolic state, running on ketones instead of glucose, also provides a cleaner fuel for your brain and other organs. Many people report increased mental clarity during this phase, which makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Our ancestors needed sharp minds to find food when they were hungry. Between 24 and 48 hours, something remarkable happens to your immune cells. A 2023 study in the journal Immunity made a surprising discovery. During fasting, monocytes, a type of immune cell, retreat from your bloodstream back into your bone marrow. Monocytes are critical components of innate immunity. They patrol your blood, detect invaders, and can transform into macrophages that engulf and destroy pathogens. They are among the first responders when infection strikes. You might think having fewer of them circulating in your blood would be a bad thing. But the researchers found something interesting. The bone marrow acts as a safe haven. During nutrient scarcity, it protects monocytes from damage. They are not being destroyed. They are being preserved. This is an energy conservation strategy. Immune cells are metabolically expensive to produce and maintain. When food is scarce, your body protects its investment by sheltering valuable immune cells ready to deploy when conditions improve. The signal for this retreat comes from the brain. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which connects your brain to your hormonal system, releases corticosterone. This hormone increases a receptor on monocytes called CXCR4, which guides them back to the bone marrow. It is a coordinated intelligent response, not random cell death. Think of it as pulling your troops back to a fortified position during a time of resource scarcity, keeping them safe and ready for the next battle. Between 48 and 72 hours or more, we see perhaps the most dramatic effect of extended fasting on immunity. This is where research from the University of Southern California becomes particularly relevant. Professor Walter Longo and his team at USC made a discovery that surprised even them. In both mice and a phase 1 human clinical trial, they found that cycles of prolonged fasting did not just rest the immune system, they regenerated it. Here is what happens at the cellular level. When you fast for extended periods, an enzyme called PKA decreases. PKA normally keeps stem cells dormant. When PKA drops, it gives stem cells the green light to wake up and start working. At the same time, IGF-1, a growth factor hormone, also decreases. This combination triggers hematopoietic stem cells in your bone marrow to begin dividing and producing new immune cells. The hematopoietic system is the system that produces all your blood cells, including every type of immune cell. Red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. They all come from hematopoietic stem cells in your bone marrow. Professor Longo said, quote, "We could not predict that prolonged fasting would have such a remarkable effect in promoting stem cell-based regeneration of the hematopoietic system." End quote. In other words, prolonged fasting can trigger your body to break down old damaged immune cells and rebuild fresh ones from stem cells. It is like pressing a reset button on your immune system. The study showed that fasting could generate, in Longo's words, literally a new immune system. This has profound implications. As we age, our immune systems become less effective. This process, called immunosenescence, is one reason older adults are more vulnerable to infections. If fasting can stimulate the regeneration of immune cells from stem cells, it may offer a way to partially reverse this age-related decline. When you break your fast, monocytes sheltered in the bone marrow surge back into your bloodstream. They are rested, preserved, and ready for action. This is why breaking your fast properly matters, which we will discuss in the practical section. Beyond autophagy and stem cell regeneration, fasting provides several other immune benefits. First, reduction of chronic inflammation. Studies on Ramadan fasting show reductions in pro-inflammatory cytokines, including interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. A 2024 meta-analysis found that time-restricted feeding significantly reduced TNF-alpha and C-reactive protein. Lower chronic inflammation means your immune system can focus on real threats. Second, fasting affects lymphocytes, the T cells and B cells that form the core of adaptive immunity. Research suggests periodic fasting helps refresh your lymphocyte population, clearing out older cells and making space for newer, more functional ones. Third, there is the gut microbiome connection. Roughly 70 to 80% of your immune system resides in and around your gut. Studies show intermittent fasting can positively alter gut microbiome composition, increasing bacterial diversity and promoting beneficial bacteria. A healthier gut microbiome means better immune regulation. Now let us look at clinical evidence. Does this translate to better outcomes when people get sick? In 2022, researchers at Intermountain Healthcare in Utah published a study on patients who tested positive for COVID-19 during the pre-vaccine era. Among these patients, some had practiced periodic fasting for religious reasons. In Utah, many people fast once a month, skipping 2 consecutive meals. Researchers compared outcomes between those who fasted regularly on average more than 40 years and those who did not. Among regular fasters, 11% required hospitalization or died. Among non-fasters, 28.8% required hospitalization or died. That is less than half the rate of severe outcomes in the fasting group. Importantly, fasting did not prevent infection. Infection rates were similar, but fasting was associated with dramatically less severe illness. The researchers proposed several mechanisms: reduced chronic inflammation, enhanced autophagy, clearing infected cells, and the metabolic conditioning from years of periodic fasting. Other studies show similar patterns. Research on Ramadan fasting showed significant reductions in inflammatory cytokines. A multi-omics study after 72 hours of fasting found dramatically increased autophagy in white blood cells. So we have the science and evidence. Now let us talk about practical application. There are several approaches to fasting. The most accessible is time-restricted eating, the 16-8 method. You eat within an 8-hour window and fast the remaining 16 hours. For example, eat between noon and 8 p.m. Since you sleep for half the fasting period, this is manageable for most people. It lowers insulin, activates some autophagy, and begins reducing inflammation. The 5-2 method involves eating normally 5 days and restricting calories to about 500 to 600 on 2 non-consecutive days. This creates deeper metabolic stress that enhances fasting benefits. A 24-hour fast done once a week or month takes things further. Eat dinner, skip all meals the next day. Eat dinner the following evening. This puts you solidly into ketosis and significantly activates autophagy. Extended fasts of 48 to 72 hours or longer are where stem cell regeneration research becomes most relevant. However, these carry more risk and should only be attempted with fasting experience and ideally medical supervision. If you are new to fasting, start with 16-8 for at least 2 weeks. Pay attention to how your body responds. Once comfortable, you can experiment with occasional 24-hour fasts. Regardless of method, certain safety practices are essential. Stay hydrated. Drink at least 2 to 3 liters of water daily. You can have black coffee and plain tea. For fasts longer than 24 hours, consider supplementing electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium become depleted. A pinch of salt in water or an electrolyte supplement can prevent headaches and fatigue. Listen to your body. Mild hunger, slight fatigue, and occasional irritability are normal when new to fasting. But certain symptoms mean you should stop immediately. Severe dizziness that does not pass after 30 minutes. Heart palpitations or irregular heartbeat. Confusion or difficulty thinking clearly. Extreme weakness, nausea or vomiting. If you experience any of these, break your fast immediately with something gentle and consult a healthcare professional. How you break your fast matters. After extended fasting, your digestive system has been resting. If you immediately eat a large, heavy meal, you can overwhelm your system. Start with broth. A small portion of easily digestible food, plenty of fluids. Wait an hour or two before a full meal. Certain people should not fast or should only fast under medical supervision. Pregnant or breastfeeding women have increased nutritional needs. People with eating disorder history should approach fasting very carefully. Anyone taking insulin or diabetes medications needs medical guidance. People with chronic kidney disease, Those who are underweight and anyone under 18 should not fast without supervision. One more important point. Fasting is most beneficial for immune support when done preventively, before you get sick, or between illnesses to maintain defenses. If you are currently fighting an acute infection, especially a severe one, consult your doctor before fasting. So where does this leave us? The evidence is compelling. Fasting practiced safely and strategically appears to be a powerful natural tool for supporting immune function. It activates autophagy, your cellular cleaning system. It reduces chronic inflammation. It can trigger stem cell regeneration. It starves pathogens while your cells adapt. And it gives your body the metabolic reset that modern life rarely provides. This is not a magic cure or replacement for vaccines, medications, or medical care. But it is a tool humans have used for thousands of years, that nature programmed into our biology, and that modern science is now validating. The ancient Greeks called the fasting instinct the physician within. They may have understood something we are only now fully appreciating. If you want to start, here are concrete steps. First, start with 16-8 time-restricted eating for 2 weeks. Second, pay attention to how you feel. Third, if you feel good, try extending your fasting window occasionally or adding a 24-hour fast once a month. Fourth, always prioritize hydration and electrolytes. Fifth, combine fasting with other healthy practices, adequate sleep, stress management, regular activity, and nutritious eating during feeding windows. The long-term benefits extend beyond immunity. Regular fasting has been associated with improved cardiovascular health, better metabolic function, and increased longevity. In a world where new health challenges emerge constantly, a strong immune system is more valuable than ever. Your body already knows how to protect itself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is get out of its way and let it work. Which part surprised you most, that immune cells retreat to bone marrow during fasting, or that fasting can regenerate your entire immune system? Let me know in the comments. If you have ever instinctively lost your appetite when sick, share your experience in one word below. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who might benefit from understanding the fasting immunity connection. Subscribe so you do not miss our next deep dive into how your body works. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next